Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Suranandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Pravijakacharya Asatura Sadashi Srimad, His Divine Grace to the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Anantagota Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glorious Sama devotees, all glorious Sama devotees, all glorious Sama devotees, All glories to Shri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So this evening I was thinking we might read from a very popular book many of you have heard of, the Bhagavad Gita as it is. This is from the 15th chapter, text number 5. And this verse explains how to go back to the spiritual world. So listen carefully. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivitti kama dvanvara mukta sukatuku sangner gachanchi mudha padam avayam tat. Here Krishna says, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. That's the key. Now we'll hear a commentary by Prabhupada. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature, it is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of the material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false association caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions, such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. And he becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Timanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukum Kutubatalang Pungulung Hayate Gurim Yatkripa Taraham Bandai Shikarum Dinataranam Vanchikapatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. The first thing Krishna mentions here is that one has to become free of false pride, ego. Anybody here have the experience where you've gotten in a little bit of trouble because of your ego? Yeah? Only 6? Ego is a big problem. Well, actually, not ego. Ego just means identity. There's the real ego, and there's the false ego. So the false ego is this false understanding, this misunderstanding of who we are. You know, we think that we're this body. This is false ego. This is not the reality. We're actually the soul within. This is the real ego. We're part of the Supreme Soul, Krishna. He also has an ego. Krishna has an ego. So what is his ego? That he's the Supreme Personality of God. He never has a false ego. See, our problem, sometimes we have an understanding of our real ego, that we're spirit soul, eternal servants of Krishna, and that gets covered over sometimes, and we have this false ego, that I'm this body, that I'm American or Indian or Russian or Filipino, or so this is the false ego. And this ego is one of the biggest obstacles to our attaining self-realization. We're all on a journey of self-discovery. And this ego, this false ego, is a major obstacle to our coming to this reality, that we're the soul within. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says, Machchita sarvadargani mad prasada trishasi achata tongahankaram nasoshasi varanchasi. Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you'll cross over all the obstacles on your path to pure devotion. If, however, you act out of false ego and you don't hear me, then you'll be lost. Nobody likes to be lost. We all want to know where we're going all the time. But sometimes due to this false ego, we become bewildered and lost in this, as Prabhupada says, the material tabernacle, this ocean of material existence. So also Krishna, he says in the Gita, Trivadham Narakoshedam, there are 3 gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. And every sane person should give them up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So these three things, they're actually fed on by the ego: the lust, anger, greed. They thrive because of the ego. So it's a major accomplishment when we're able to overcome this false ego. So it's also said that the highest level of the false ego is when someone thinks that they're God. Anybody ever meet anybody that says they think they're God? Yeah. I met one person when I was distributing books, and so I usually ask people, so what kind of work do you do? And this person said, well, I'm God. I said, well, that's an awfully big position you have there. But there's characteristics of God. And one of the characteristics of God is He knows everything. Can you tell me what I'm thinking? And he said, yeah, you're thinking I'm a rascal. I said, you're pretty good, that's right. But I was also thinking of a number. Can you tell with the number? No. No. So, yeah, this is a major obstacle when people think that they're God. There's one French philosopher, Blaise Pascal, and he came up with this wager, Pascal's wager. And he was a mathematician and a philosopher. So he was a thoughtful person. So he said there's only 4 ways to go. There's a God, and you serve God. There's a God, and you don't serve God. There isn't a God, and you don't serve God. There isn't a God, and you serve God, that person who you think exists, which is interesting. So this is Pascal's wager. So if there's a God and you serve God, you're the big winner. You're the big winner. You made it. If there's a God and one doesn't serve God, then you could be in some difficulty there. Bad wager. Because if there's a God, then there's certain things we should do and certain things we shouldn't do. Just like here in America, people that are law-abiding citizens, they follow the laws of the government. And there's some people that don't like this government and don't believe in it and don't follow it, and there's a place for those people. It's called prison. They don't believe in the government. So the other one, there isn't a God, and one serves that person who they think exists. But even then, he comes out ahead. Because people that are serving God, generally they have moral principles, they're nice people, and they live a decent life. So even then, they come ahead. Even if there is no God, still you come out ahead because you live a decent life. You know. And if there's no God and you don't serve God, then pretty much that's what people are living now. A lot of people, not everybody, but a good percentage. So no big gain there. So his conclusion is, with Pascal's wager, is you're better off serving God. And the chances of there being a God are high, very high, because just looking at the organization and just with logic, one can understand there must be a God, you know, because there's so much organization, amazing organization is going on. You know, the stars and so many things, food. You know, you get a seed from a lemon. You put it in the ground and you water that seed, and all this these lemons grow from this tree. You know, it's amazing. You know, or mango trees, amazing. So this is not by accident, or people. You know, just phenomenal, just amazing. You know, our father put some seed into our mother, and we grew, and it came out the way we are now. It's pretty fascinating. There's no accident in this creation. There must be some higher intelligence behind this amazing creation. So that's the first thing that Krishna mentions here, that one has to become free of false prestige. Then he says one has to become free of illusion. So the main illusion in this world is that people are thinking that we are this material body. But the reality is we are something different from this body. This body is described, it's like it's a bag with many elements. Anybody know how many bones are in the body? Huh? Did I hear somebody? You got it! She gets the Mahaprasada. That's right. We all have 206 bones in our bodies. And that's kind of like the frame that keeps it together. Without these bones, this body would just be a blob here. Just be a blob. And that kind of keeps all the organs and all the parts, you know, in place. You know, so you got the intestines, and then you got the heart, and about 3 quarts of blood. So we're not these elements, you know, blood and bones. No, we're something beyond. We're actually the soul within. So this is the reality, and to get away from this illusion, it's a big challenge to realize that I'm not a male American or a male Hindu or a female American, or we've grown up ingrained in this illusion. You know, so to pull free of this illusion, it's a big challenge. So how do we become free of this illusion? Well, that's what this whole bhakti yoga process is about. Hearing, just like we're hearing Bhagavad Gita. Now Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kamaram yovaram jara tatha dehantara prabhtir dhiras tatra namuyati. As the soul continually goes through this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul simply goes into another body at the time of death. So we're just going through these various bodies. Every 7 years or so we have a different body, and the soul is just going through. The Jayate Mriyate, for the soul there's neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying. He is not slain when the body is slain. And Krishna gives another example, Vasangsi Janani Atavihaya. Just like we're all wearing this particular dress now. And these dresses are going to get old eventually. Then we're going to get new dress. We'll get fresh new dress. So this body, it's going to get old. Just like our clothes now, they're going to get old, so this body is going to get old. And it's going to die. But we're not going to die. We're going to continue according to our karma. We're like the architects of our future. According to how we're living this life now, we're creating our future. So Krishna, he explains in the Bhagavad Gita that if you think of me, Manmana Bhava Madbhakta, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me, he says you'll come to me. See, if we're thinking of Krishna throughout this life, then there's a good chance, a good opportunity that we'll think of Krishna at the time of death. But if we're thinking of so many other things, then there's a good opportunity to think of these other things that we don't want to think of. Just like now there's so many movies and there's so much news, but these things aren't healthy for our spiritual life, because all these things, they leave impressions. 40, 50 years. I remember seeing movies 50 years ago and it's still there. The impression is still there. So we want to fill our impressions with Krishna. Hearing about Krishna, reading Bhagavad Gita, hearing Krishna book. Now we have so many nice movies also. We have these Krishna movies. They made in India. The pastimes of Krishna, beautiful little movies of Krishna. And we have Mahabharata, and we have our ISKCON news, which is Dandavats. You can hear about devotees and hear lectures, and we also have ISKCON Desire Tree. ISKCON Desire Tree is an amazing website where you could hear from literally thousands of different devotees. So there's so much opportunity by the mercy of this higher technology. We could hear about Krishna all day long if someone wants to. So this is one of the great benedictions of this modern technology. Of course, we have to be careful. There's a lot of maya in this modern technology that people get carried away with. But there's also great opportunity to become Krishna conscious by taking advantage of this technology. So to get free of illusion is a challenge. Now it's described that the conditioned soul has 4 defects. One of them is it has this tendency to be an illusion. Another one is that we have a tendency to cheat. Like so many swamis have come from India, and unfortunately they cheated many of their followers, and people were disappointed. So Srila Prabhupada, he said, I have not come here to cheat you. It's like there's one group, they were charging for mantra. I was cheated by those people. I have first-hand experience. You pay for some mantra. This is back in 1978. Paid $120 for 2 syllables. Very expensive back in that was 45 years ago. Very expensive. Now it costs $1,200. Inflation. So whenever I meet people and they ask me, what do you think about this? I say, keep your money. Keep your money. They're cheating you. So Srila Prabhupada said, I could have also done this. I could have charged. How many syllables are in the Hare Krishna mantra? 32. So 32, $60 for each syllable. Hey, he could have made a lot of money. But he said, I did not come here to cheat you. He gave it out free. The Hare Krishna mantra, the great mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, for deliverance, for purification. He just gave it out freely. And there's a interesting story of this one great devotee, Ramanujacharya, who was told by his spiritual master, I'm going to give you a mantra, and I want you to chant this mantra silently. Don't tell anybody. It's a great mantra. Anybody that hears it gets liberated. But keep it to yourself. And okay. But then he's walking, he's thinking, wow, anybody who hears this, they get liberated. So he went up on a building, and he called all the townsfolk, come, I have great news for you. Please chant this mantra and you'll be liberated. So they're all excited. He's famous as a great devotee, so he tells them this mantra. And then his spiritual master hears, and he goes to him and said, hey, what are you doing? I told you this is a silent mantra, and you said you wouldn't tell anybody, but you just told the whole village. And Ramanujacharya said, Guru, you can punish me as you like. I have no problem with that. But you said, anybody who hears this mantra, chants this mantra, they become liberated. So I thought, well, let me go to hell for disobeying you, but let these people get liberated. And when the Guru heard that, he paid respects to him and said, you are my Guru. So this is compassion. A devotee is very compassionate. Even there, he may go through some difficulty due to disobeying the spiritual master. He wants to see everybody liberated. This is the mood of Srila Prabhupada. There was one instance where a disciple, one lady disciple, was living in a temple, and Prabhupada was visiting that temple at the time. And this lady went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I had a wonderful dream last night. I dreamt that everybody in the world was chanting Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said, oh, that's a wonderful dream, and this is my desire. So this is the desire of the pure devotee, that everyone become happy. Sarva Sukhino Bhavantu. This is the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement, that everyone become happy. It's a big challenge, but it's working to some degree. Some people are benefiting. Free of the tendency to cheat others, tendency to be an illusion, imperfect senses. This is another flaw of the conditioned souls. We have imperfect senses. And Prabhupada used to give the example of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India. He was told, don't go to this function tonight that you're planning on going to. I've heard there's danger. But he went anyway. Even though he was warned, he went anyway. There he was shot and killed. So he could have taken the advice, but he made that mistake, didn't take good advice. So this is the flaw of the conditioned soul. We make mistakes. To err is human. We all make mistakes. Yeah. But Krishna doesn't make mistakes. So if we take guidance from Krishna, we will be in very good hands. He will give us guidance. The Bhagavad Gita is actually, it's an instruction guide for the human form of life. And the people follow. If we just follow this one instruction here, then we can go back to the spiritual world. Just this one verse. This is how powerful the Bhagavad Gita is. Just this one verse If we follow this, if we take it to heart, we can become purified and go back home, back to the spiritual world. This is the power of the words of Krishna. Very powerful. Krishna is very powerful. Yeah. So, and then we have imperfect senses. Imperfect senses. It's like we make mistakes. We also have imperfect senses. We make mistakes with our senses as well. So the more we take shelter of Krishna, we hear the instructions of Krishna and take guidance from Krishna, the more our senses become purified. We become free of this tendency to cheat others. I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened. I was distributing books in a university up in the northwest many years ago, and I was explaining to one student these different flaws of the conditioned soul. And I explained to him that one of them is that we have this cheating propensity. And he explained that he had just read in the newspaper how there was one psychiatrist who was treating a patient, and this patient had about 10 different split personalities. So this psychiatrist had a brilliant idea of charging each of the split personalities. Brilliant. So one of the split personalities had enough intelligence to take this doctor to court, and the judge could not believe it. Took away his license and had to go to jail for 2 years. So this is the cheating propensity. Even up there, in the higher rungs of education, they take advantage of people. So Prabhupada has come to help us out of this illusion, this illusory material existence. And Krishna has come to help us as well. So we're very fortunate to have this this guidance. So continuing with this verse, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association. So what does this mean, false association? There's good association and there's false association. Good association is to associate with people that can help us in our journey back to Krishna. And this of course, this means devotees. And it's not that only people who live in the ashram here can give guidance and help. There's so many devotees here in San Diego living outside, living very strict, nice spiritual lives. So by coming here on Sunday, this is very auspicious. We also have Thursdays, and some devotees, they come every day, Bhagavatam class or Bhagavad Gita class, to get association, to hear about Krishna. It's so important. Because this association with devotees, it rubs off onto us. It rubs off onto us. But if we just associate with non-devotees, guess what happens? That also rubs off onto us. So association is very important. In Brazil, they have a saying, you tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Or as we say here, birds of a feather flock together. So association is very important. And you may not be able to live with devotees, but just by hearing Bhagavad Gita, you're associating with Krishna. There's one instance where a life member said to Srila Prabhupada, Arjuna was so fortunate because he heard directly Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, from the mouth of Krishna. We are not so fortunate. And Prabhupada said, no. Just by reading Bhagavad Gita, it's non-different. It's just as though Krishna was standing before you speaking the Bhagavad Gita. It's no difference. So if we just open the Bhagavad Gita, God, Krishna, He's speaking to us. And we're getting purified. So this is the best association. It's Krishna. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, we have Srila Prabhupada giving the commentary. Also, wonderful association. And there's the Vani and there's the Vapu. More important than the Vapu is the Vani. So he's giving us very valuable instructions in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Such treasures of knowledge. In one purport in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that Krishna, he's compared to a diamond. And the pure devotee is compared to gold. If you have a beautiful gold ring and you put a diamond in there, they complement each other. Right? So when we read these books, we're getting very, very valuable association, priceless association. It's like when I distribute books, I tell people, you know, you can't put a price on wisdom. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it is, it's priceless. Yeah. Priceless wisdom. So we're trying to imbibe this knowledge, and we're also trying to give it out to others, so that others can also become wealthy spiritually. There's a statement by Lord Chaitanya, Prema Dana Vana Vyate Daridra Jivan, Dasikora Vitane Mora Deha Prema Dana. If one does not have love for Krishna, what is considered to be a Daridra Jivan, a poor soul. Lord Chaitanya goes on to say, therefore, my dear Lord Krishna, please engage me in your service, and all I want as salary is service to you. This is the salary that a devotee wants. We don't want money. What is money? Money is just dirty green paper. It just causes anxiety. Of course, we have to pay bills, and you have to, certain things. But it's not all what it's said to be. But if one can attain bhakti, this is the highest wealth, much greater than billions and billions and trillions of dollars. Yeah. So this is the wealth of the soul. And this comes by association. So then, what time is it anyway? I should... 6:40? Okay. Okay. So continue with this. So then he goes on to say, who understands the eternal. So Krishna gives us so much information about the soul. Before I read the Bhagavad Gita, I didn't hear anything, except for in the Bible. There is one place in the Bible where it says, what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world but lose the eternal soul? That's all I know. That's the only thing I ever heard about the soul. But you read the Bhagavad Gita, there's so much information about the soul. It goes on and on and on. It's like, wow. After reading it, I was thinking, wow, actually I'm a soul within. I'm not this body, I'm the soul within. Yeah. This is the result of hearing the words of Krishna, the words of Srila Prabhupada, that we get this understanding. This is not me. I'm different from this body. I'm the soul, eternal soul within. Nothing can kill me. Nothing can destroy me. So that's a nice thing to know. It's a nice thing to know, because a lot of people fear death. Now we have this disease, and there's a lot of fear. But a devotee has no fear about death, because we can't die. So then he goes on to say, who are done with material lust. So this lust is actually a perverted reflection of our original love for Krishna. We're covered by this lust. Just like if you have some iron and you have a magnet. Now the magnet and the iron, they naturally are attracted to each other. But if the iron gets some rust on it, a lot of rust, covered with rust. Is there any attraction anymore? No attraction at all between the magnet and the iron, because it's covered by this rust. So this process of Krishna consciousness is removing this rusty lust so that we can again be attracted to Krishna. Yeah. This is why there may not be that attraction to Krishna, because there's this contamination covering the soul. Lust and greed and anger, envy, illusion, all these things are covering the soul. So this process, this bhakti yoga process, is so powerful that we can become completely cleansed of all this contamination and again be attracted to Krishna. And then we experience love. Everybody wants love, isn't it? Everybody wants love. No question, everybody wants love. But you don't find it in this world. What you find in this world is lust, this perverted reflection. But love is there in our relationship with Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya, in the Shikshashtaka, he says, he defines what is love. Ashli Shiva Padaritam Pranostamam Adarsanam Marvatam Karotava Yatata Vavaditantu Lampato Mat Prananatha Sasevanaparaha. I don't know him but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything. He's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. This is love. No matter what the object of my love does, I will continue serving. So this is the definition of love, according to our Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So maybe I'll stop there. Is there any question or a comment? We have a microphone here. Or any reflection? Question, reflection, comment?
So I met one man, and he said, well, you know, whether there's God or not, let's say there is God, he wants me to be happy. He wants us all to be happy. So I just have to make sure I'm happy, and I'll be serving God, because he just wants me to be happy. So if I can just be happy with my activities, I'll be pleasing God. So I don't have to really do anything but just keep myself happy. And God will be pleased, and I'll
just be happy. Wasn't there a song like that? Just be happy. Oh yeah, don't worry. That was it. Don't worry, just be happy. Yeah. So yeah, easier said than done, as we see in this world. I remember before I joined, I was thinking, where is the real happiness? And I couldn't see where people actually really. I mean, there's a lot of stress, but real happiness. And then when I met the devotees, I thought, well, here's some happy people. I remember I was on Harinam one time. Harinam is when we go out with devotees and we have the cymbals and the drum and we go out to public. So I met one lady. She said, you know, I travel around the world and I see you people everywhere, and you people are the happiest people in the world. And I thought, well, I joined the right movement, you know. Yes. Oh yeah, the microphone. Where's the mic? There.
So Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, I've heard him in conversations where one time he was approached by a priest, I think on an airplane, and the priest came up to him and says, how is it that all your followers are so bright-faced? He said there are sons and daughters, but they're so happy, participating in what you're giving them. You were talking about being happy, so I was relaying that.
Yeah, and he said, these were our boys. These are, and they weren't interested in God. Now they're mad after God. So, this is what Prabhupada did. He brought God. He brought God as He is. Yeah. I grew up a Christian, but there's very little information of God in the Bible, New Testament, Old Testament, very little information. But then we get the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we get the Bhagavad Gita, and we get so much information about God. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So we're very fortunate. Yes, we have a microphone coming to you right now, within 3 seconds.
Elaborate a little bit about what you just said.
Okay.
How the information is kind of limited in this amazing book, the Bible. But now the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, is just, we are inundated with all this information. So my mother, has her Bible. So I said, Mom, in this book that you read every day, it comes up about 6 times where the instruction is to glorify and sing the praises of the holy name of God. Where in your book does it give you even one name of God? She goes, God. I go, God's a title. And she says, Lord. I go, Lord is a title. Where's the name? So she became frustrated, right? So I said, here in this book, and I gave her one of our Bhagavad Gitas, Krishna's name, God's name, comes up multiple times. And then in this giant set of books, the Bhagavatam, even more. So there is a key distinction. It's like a differentiator. It's saying that the instruction is to glorify the holy name, but it's not there. So
Hallowed be thy name.
Exactly. In Psalms 150, same thing. Come together with drums and cymbals and sing the praises of the holy name. Just what we are doing.
And the forehead, mark the forehead also. It's there
Yes.
also.
Yeah. So it's like so close, but just there's that lacking. I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes. Yamunapati Prabhu, thank you. Adding on to the nectar here.
I got a couple things. One thing is, and Vijay Prabhu has already spoken to that, but you were talking about being happy. And Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say, just chant Hare Krishna and be happy.
Yeah.
So that was there. But it was interesting about the education. In one talk, Srila Prabhupada there was a conversation going on about, people reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and learning Krishna consciousness, that even if they come from a different tradition, like, Christian or like that. So Srila Prabhupada said that, just like you may be educated, you may have a degree, a master's or something like that in a school of education, you still may go even to a foreign country to further enhance your understanding in that field. So if you want to develop love for God, it's not really against your tradition. If your motive, according to Christian tradition, is to develop love of God, to go to study the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam will enhance that pursuit. So it was a nice analogy, that he gave there.
Yeah, very good. Wherever knowledge of God can be found, we should go for it and look, investigate. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.